Lekki Mills makes packaged yam, and they actually have yam chips as a snack as well. So what we do is give Lekki Mills the access to that ecosystem of suppliers. They don't actually have to interface with all of them. It's like you put in your order as Lekki Mills. That works in our back end with our ecosystem of suppliers, and we are able to ensure that the quality assurance is being done. The quality meets what Lekki Mills' requirements have stated, pricing matches, and the delivery is being done in a seamless manner so that they're getting their raw materials in a timely manner. There's so much that needs to be done that, competition is not even something. I think we should think more from collaborative framework as opposed to, oh, I want to do this alone. And that's something I continuously try to do as well, thinking of myself as an ecosystem participant, where it's not just what can farms to you do, it's also how is the work of farms to you influencing other folks that are in the space, and how can we create synergy where the sum of equal parts, the sum of parts is greater than the individual, and creating that synergy through collaboration. So I think, going deep on the problem, being collaborative, those are some ways that really strengthen your brand. So what we do is give Lekki Mills the access to that ecosystem of suppliers. They don't actually have to interface with all of them. It's like you put in your order as Lekki Mills. That works in our back end. See, the world is changing. The world is, there's so many things happening. And think of it as being bleak, or, even just want to put yourself under your duvet. But I think, every challenge presents an opportunity. And I think, whatever it is you want to do, have a very strong why, because there will be challenges. There'll be times when you'll be knocked down to continue on the journey that you are on. But if you have a strong why, it gets you up, it gets you going. I don't know if my audience are just Nigerian or global, but first of all, I'll speak to my Niger people. I think, yes, we're going through an interesting time in Nigeria, but I think there are lots of opportunities as well. And I think, as much as there's Japa culture, which is not actually unique to Nigeria, there is no perfect place in the world, as we can see. I think it's just finding, your niche as to what do I want to do. Sometimes it's not about doing it on your own, or I want to be my own boss. Maybe that's not time yet, but really understanding what's your why. What do you want to do with yourself in this stage of your life, and what is the legacy you're trying to create for yourself?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're listening from. You picked the right episode to listen to today, because I have a phenomenal speaker joining me today. Her name is Aisha Raheem Bolarinwa. She's the CEO and founder of an agri-tech company called Farms to You, dedicated in improving the supply chain process of smallholder farmers and enabling the reduction of waste. But I'm not going to tell her story, because I think nobody can tell your story better than you. So I'm going to allow her to introduce herself and give us a bit of a background as to what problem she's trying to solve.
Sure. Thank you for having me, for me, and it's a pleasure to be here today. Great intro. Farms to You. We're a supply chain technology company with operations in Nigeria and Kenya. And our mission really is to make food systems more sustainable and profitable. We do that by increasing the visibility of agricultural value chains between the production end and the purchasing end. So, for instance, buyers of food like FMCG companies, processing companies, we work closely with them to help them better understand the flow of food from source, from the farmers, and making that process more transparent and visible. Why is that necessary? Because if you think about somebody, for instance, that is buying cocoa, between the cocoa buyer, say for instance, a Hershey's. There's so many players in between before you actually get to the cocoa farmer, where we have issues with financial flow from the buyers to the farmers being very minimal, less than 10% for cocoa. It's actually less than 6% of the final retail value of a cocoa product adjusted for the raw materials actually goes back to the farmer. And this is an issue in the sense where if the farmer can't operate profitably, it also puts at risk the continued supply of cocoa for the food manufacturers, the processing companies that need that product. So, what we do at Farms to You is digitize our traditional informal sector where you have aggregators, brokers, middlemen that support the farmers in essentially aggregating smallholder outputs in a manner where they can then be transacted directly with these buyers. So that's the work we do at Farms to You.
Great, great intro. So maybe I should start by asking, this is a laudable cause rather. So what challenges did you face while trying to get to product market fit? And have you achieved that?
I mean, there are lots of challenges.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, my background is in finance. I do not come from a food or agricultural background. Um, I, uh, I really, Pharmacy was born out of a personal health experience where I really started to pay more attention to my food. So I think even getting the initial in learning of the sector was probably one of my initial challenges. I mean, my early career was in England, where I worked in finance before moving back to Nigeria to pursue pharmacy full time. I did my NYC a decade after graduation with the Ministry of Agriculture, which exposed me to a lot of the challenges in of the food systems we have in Nigeria. So I think some of the early challenges I faced were, initially even understanding the fundamentals, and coming in with a financial background. One of the things I very early saw was that the better you grow food. So if you grow food in a manner that is better for the environment, you actually make less money. And the economics of food production has been done in a way where it's negatively correlated with sustainability. This is why you start hearing the incentives where people are putting chemicals in our food. I even most recently heard about fufu, where chemicals are being used to prolong the shelf life of food. Chemicals are being used on the farm to reduce the cost of pesticides and diseases. These are things that we've inherited from this mechanized farming structure that is not only hurting the nutrients of our food and the quality of our food, it's harming our health, it's harming our environment. So some of the challenges that I've had, apart from the upskilling, is also trying to um, navigate the fundamental structure of the industry, and what's the actual root cause of the reason why smallholder farmers are not making enough money to scale for the reasons I just mentioned. And why are fewer people going into farming? I mean, if it's not profitable, you wouldn't go into it. And apart from that, there are a number of other challenges in the sense of infrastructural challenges in the country, the impact of fuel costs on logistics in terms of transporting food from one point to another, in terms of the cost of inputs for food production, because we rely a lot on imported farm inputs like fertilizers and the rest of it. So, I mean, the list is long. There are challenges, but with challenges, I think that they also present opportunities as well. And yeah, that has really informed my experience in building this company.
Thank you. Okay, so do you think you've created something that has achieved program market fit?
Interesting question. Um, what we're doing is solving a problem. I mean, market fit is that, are you solving a problem? But we feel like we've built a first world solution to a third world problem. And what I mean by that is our solution, built as a tech and a tech enabled business. The challenge with tech enabled businesses in markets like Nigeria is that there's still so much hard infrastructure that is lacking. So while pharmacy is solving a component of the problem for buyers, which is, I don't have to interface with all these middlemen. There's still so many unsolved problems. Like my products in transit is spoiling. So by the time it gets to my warehouse, to my warehouse or my factory, a good percentage of it has been lost. What is solving that problem for avoiding post harvest loss? There are a number of other problems. For instance, to my earlier point, the quality of inputs that are being used in production, that affects the quality of the end products you and I consume. So, for instance, if you think about products like oil, for instance, if the quality of soya beans used in manufacturing the oil is not the best quality, as end consumers, it doesn't meet our taste requirements. So we have reached market fit for building in supply chain visibility, for agricultural value chains, but there's still so much work to be done for that to be meaningful, to the buyers that we work with, to the farmers that we work with, where there's, as much as tech enabled businesses are important in our market, we also need to have infrastructure, and the tangible asset model side of the business, which is something that we are actually now evolving into at Farms to You.
Okay, I was thinking that maybe perhaps to give the viewers a background of what, in the real sense, is what the technology that you have created actually does in solving the problem, is to give us a description of the model, the business model of the business granularly. Could you do that?
Sure, of
Okay.
course. You're a buyer, and I'll mention one of our buyers, Lecky Mills. Lecky Mills makes packaged yam, and they actually have yam chips as a snack as well. Definitely try them if you haven't. And Lecky Mills works with us to source yam for their processing. They sell locally and they also export. So how Lecky Mills makes use of our supply chain management tool at Farms to You is essentially having their regular orders for this is the quantity of yam I need to source. And of course, because they have orders they have to fill, those that sourcing has to be done in a timely manner. So the benefit that Farms to gives Lecky Mills is that Lecky Mills doesn't have to go into the field to be looking for who is selling the yam in the requirements that they need. Because bear in mind again that end consumers like me and you have specific tastes. If the yam chips that we end up buying is not white, it's grayish, I probably wouldn't take that off the shop shelf. So what we do is give Lucky Mills the access to that ecosystem of suppliers. They don't actually have to interface with all of them. It's like you put in your order as Lucky Mills. That works in our back end with our ecosystem of suppliers, and we are able to ensure that the quality assurance is being done. The quality meets what Lecky Mills' requirements have stated, pricing matches, and the delivery is being done in a seamless manner so that they're getting their raw materials in a timely manner. So that's an example of a flow of the transaction. For Lecky Mills as a buyer, it gives them the comfort that my order, my raw materials the products I need are going to come to me in a timely manner. For the farmers that we work with, it gives them more direct access to markets for them to sell their harvest. Also, they are guaranteed a better price because they're not having to interface with middlemen that are not adding value in that process. So that's an example of the flow. But I suppose uh, my previous response is in thinking even longer term, because Lucky Mills, as they grow, they would need more yam to service their yam chip orders. They would need more storage capacity and things like that. But that's how the business model operates today, very tech enabled. But we have certainly identified that need for more investment from a tangible asset base point of view.
Okay, which begs the question of how do farmers who I imagine might not be as tech savvy as you and I, how do they integrate this application into their process? How do they use it? Is there minimum resistance to adoption for the farmers?
No, I mean, the interface with the buyers is very different from the interface with farmers. The one with farmers is much simpler. It has things like WhatsApp integrations, but more specifically on our farmer side, we've actually used an organization framework to be able to work with the farmers, where you have the farmer, the smallholder farmer, emerging commercial farmers. You have cluster leads and you have aggregators across two levels that feed into the buyer. And if you think about it as you have an analyst, you have an associate, you have a director, you have different levels that interface with the solution that we have. At the farmer level, not every farmer needs to have a smartphone, is how we've built this. However, every cluster lead who within a cluster lead can be a manager of up to 20, on average 20 to 50 other farmers. But that person has to be a subject matter expert, tech savvy, also a farmer that is then able to support the rest of their cluster group in terms of providing that digital access, or also being able to translate the buyer's requirements in a manner that they understand. So for us, the people that are at those the cluster lead level, at the two levels of our aggregator level, are it's very essential that they have these technical skills that can allow us to be able to scale this technical product. And it is a model that already exists. Aggregators can't be eradicated, because truth of the matter is, these smallholder farmers are harvesting in kilograms, but the order is in megatons. 100 kg is metric tons. 100 kg, one, here, there, it doesn't fulfill the order for 10 metric tons. So the job of an aggregator is necessary to be able to aggregate the across multiple farmers to be able to then sell to a buyer. So it's a case of, how do you structure that? Because at the moment, it's a bit of a wild, wild west, where the work is not being documented, it is not being it's not transparent. So there's a risk on the farmers of being cheated. There's also no quality control on the aggregator to say, okay, aggregator, from who did you aggregate these products from, so that if there's an issue you can trace it back. So yeah, that's the structure that we use to remain efficient in how we work.
Okay. So, bearing in mind the challenges of climate change and how this affects farmers in terms of floods, droughts, does your application help them in any way to overcome some of these obstacles?
So climate change. I mean, yes, Lagos is getting hotter, the floods are getting worse. Um, at the fundamental level, for us, it's what are the best practices for the farmers, in the sense of, use less chemicals, try regenerative methods. But the truth of the matter is that growing in a more sustainable way is actually more expensive. So for us, um, it's a bit of a challenge, in the sense where, if it's costing them to be more sustainable, who is bearing that cost. It's something built into our model, and thankfully, funders, some of our funders, like philanthropists, like RippleWorks, as well as Lofting, who is one of our VC funders, are folks that understand the need for sustainability and are able to help provide concessionary finance for us to be able to do this with farmers. But in a scalable commercial model, to be more sustainable means that the buyers have to pay more money, but buyers don't want to pay more money. They want to source in a as cheap a manner as possible. So for us, it does presents challenges, which is why for us visibility is essential. Some farmers use chemicals because it's better for their unit economics. So for us, it's a case where you're being transparent. There's visibility of what is your process, but ultimately for us, it's how do you adopt these regenerative methods? Because yes, it might be more expensive now, but you have greater longevity as a farmer in the sense where your farm that you're farming on today, you can also farm there in 5 years. Whereas if you're using heavy chemicals, in 5 years' time, it is not going to give you the yields that it's currently giving you. So it's an ongoing training exercise. It's not without its challenges, and that's where you can get greater resistance than resistance from a technology perspective. But this is something that we continuously work on, particularly with support from the partners that we have.
Okay. And you spoke about visibility. Since you started, I noticed from your profile that you've been featured and you've in many media outlets like CNN and This Day in Nigeria, and you've been in different accelerators as well. So for people listening that are into the same kind of business or just entrepreneurs in general, how do you create brand visibility? Because that's key in attracting funding.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you do the work and all those features, I mean, there were outreaches to us, right? Techstars, we did apply for. That's the one accelerator that we went to. But I think if you have a clear problem that you're working towards, and I think you should be problem driven, not solution driven, because if you're going into a problem space with a preconceived solution, you might miss opportunities to capture better ways of doing things. Building a brand, I think it's understanding what's the problem you're solving, who are you solving for, and continuously working in that manner to hone in on what is the problem set, what is the fundament. Like, don't stay on the surface level. Like, dig deep. What are the root causes of this problem set you're working on? What are the systemic things that need to change? I think then you start to instill yourself as a thought leader in this space, and that does create opportunities of its own. So yeah, building a brand is a continuous process, and find partners that align to you as well. Speak to people that have walked a similar path as well to you. I think sometimes people think, oh, competition. I don't really want to tell somebody else my idea. We're not there. There's so much that needs to be done. Competition is not even something. I think we should think more from collaborative framework as opposed to, oh, I want to do this alone. And that's something I continuously try to do as well, thinking of myself as an ecosystem participant, where it's not just what kind of farms do you do, it's also how is the work of farms you influencing other folks that are in the space, and how can we create synergy where the sum of equal parts. The sum of parts is greater than the individual, and creating that synergy through collaboration. So I think going deep on the problem, being collaborative. Those are some ways that really strengthen your brand because you start to embed yourself as a thought leader.
Okay. Last comments, advice for people that are listening.
Um, See, the world is changing. The world is there's so many things happening, and you could think of it as being bleak, or even just want to put yourself under your duvet. But I think every challenge presents an opportunity, and I think whatever it is you want to do, have a very strong why, because there will be challenges. There will be times when you'll be knocked down to continue on the journey that you are on. But if you have a strong why, it gets you up, it gets you going. Um, I don't know if my audience are just Nigerian or global, but first of all, I'll speak to my Niger people. I think, yes, we're going through an interesting time in Nigeria, but I think there are lots of opportunities as well. And I think as much as there's Japa culture, which is not actually unique to Nigeria, there's there's no there is no perfect place in the world as we can see. I think it's just finding your niche as to what do I want to do. Sometimes it's not about doing it on your own, or being I want to be my own boss. Maybe that's not time yet, but really understanding what's your why. What do you want to do with yourself in this stage of your life, and what is the legacy you're trying to create for yourself. These are all subsets of your why. And I think when you're faced in hard times, it's what actually keeps you going. And as much as I'm speaking to my Nigerian people, I think this also applies to everyone, because within every opportunity, within every challenge, I do believe there is opportunity, and just keep going. Know your why, be perseverant. It goes a long way.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. I wish you well. And I hope that by the time I ask you for an interview again, you would have progressed much more. Your ecosystem would have been much larger, and we'll be hearing only great things about all the things that you're doing.
Yes, yes, really. Thank you so much for inviting me to this. I enjoyed the conversation. Sorry that my face is half melted. This is technological limitations, but yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation, and hopefully speak to you again soon.
Yeah.